Deleted Peppa Pig episode, The Second Door, which was never showed on TV. Once, Peppa noticed something strange in her room. Next to the main door, there was a second door. She had never seen it before. "Mummy, what's this door doing here?" asked Peppa. "What door? There's just a wall there," her mum replied, not even looking. Peppa decided to check for herself. She opened the door. Behind it was a brick wall. Nothing unusual. But that night, came the sound of a drill. A long, screeching noise, as if someone was drilling through the wall from the other side. Peppa got up and quietly approached the door. She opened it, the same brick wall. But in the morning, she saw a tiny hole in the center. A day passed, then another. And each morning, the hole got bigger. First the size of a coin, then a palm, then as big as her head. And then she saw an eye. Peppa called for her mum, but when she came, the wall was solid brick again. "Peppa, stop making up silly stories." But, Peppa whispered. No one believed her. That night she woke up. The sound of the drill was inside the room. She slowly turned her head. Another Peppa crawled out of the wall. She looked exactly the same. Pink dress, round cheeks, except instead of a snout, there was a long metal drill.
"I finished digging."
Deleted Peppa Pig episode, The Mannequin in the Pig Family's House, which was never showed on TV. One day, Peppa and her mummy went to an antique shop. Mummy Pig wanted to buy a new armchair while Peppa was looking at strange things. Among them stood a tall, dusty mannequin. It had no face, just a smooth white surface. "Mummy, look, this one is funny," said Peppa. "Ugh, it's creepy." Mummy Pig snorted, but the shopkeeper, a thin old man with empty eyes, suddenly said, "Take it. It shows your home." Mummy Pig laughed, but somehow the mannequin ended up in their car trunk. Evening, the mannequin was placed in the corner of Peppa's bedroom, covered with the sheet. That night, Peppa woke up to a creaking sound. Her bedroom door was slightly open. She looked over and gasped. The mannequin was now standing at her door, without the sheet. "Mummy," she whispered. No answer, only the creaking. And then it smiled. Peppa screamed. Daddy Pig ran in and said she must have imagined it. But every night it was closer. Peppa realized it moves when no one's watching. It waits until everyone is asleep. One night, the mannequin disappeared. In its place stood a new figure. It was pink. It had a tiny snout and Peppa's dress. And the real Peppa was never seen again. Mummy Pig strokes the new doll and says, "You're such a good, obedient girl." And the mannequin now stands in George's room, waiting. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, The Last Frequency, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. At work, Daddy Pig was given a strange gift, a radio receiver covered in cracks. "Old but stylish," Daddy Pig exclaimed happily. "We'll listen to it in the evenings." That evening, the radio picked up only static. But exactly at 3:33 a.m., it came to life on its own. In the silence of the bedroom, a voice was heard, quiet, scraping.
"Time to tune in. Time to tune in."
Daddy Pig got up first, then Mummy, then the children. They walked barefoot, heading toward the forest. In the clearing stood an old radio transmitter, rusty with wires sticking out like roots. Around it circled others, just like Daddy Pig, but not him. Strangers. And there, behind the trees, he was waiting. Slender Man. He just stood there. but the radio inside each of them was already receiving the signal. Peppa tried to cover her ears, and for the first time noticed black liquid was dripping from them. The signal was inside. "Turn off the radio," she whispered to herself. "Daddy, please." Daddy Pig, as if hearing through the haze, struck the radio. It cracked, and everything disappeared. In the morning, the radio lay broken. No one remembered anything, but Peppa knows for sure if the radio is ever turned on again, the frequency will find them, and so will Slender Man. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, the tape that shouldn't have been watched, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. One day, Peppa was rummaging around in the attic, looking for old toys. Dust tickled her nose, cobwebs clung to her ears. In the corner, she found a box labeled "Do Not Play" inside, an old videotape. No title, just something scratched on the side. 2009. "Danny."
Danny?
Peppa whispered. Danny was her best friend. He disappeared many years ago. No one knew where he went. He just left school one day and never came back. Curiosity won. Peppa found an old video player, inserted the tape, and pressed play.
Hey everyone! Today we're going to bury Danny in a hole, but he's hiding from me. Danny! I see you!
No! I can't believe Daddy Pig did this! This has to be a joke!
She slowly turned around. Daddy Pig was standing behind her, holding a shovel in his hooves. His face was calm, too calm.
You weren't supposed to watch that, Peppa, he said quietly.
Since that day, Peppa has been missing. Her family still believes it was an accident. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, The Mushroom That Shouldn't Be, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. One autumn day, Peppa, George, Mummy Pig, and Daddy Pig went for a walk in the forest. The leaves were bright, the air crisp. George found an acorn. Daddy Pig was photographing nature, and Peppa noticed something strange at the base of a tree. "Look, a mushroom," she shouted. The cap of the mushroom was rust-colored, covered in black specks. Dark liquid dripped from its underside. "Don't touch it, Peppa," said Mummy Pig. "That doesn't look like a normal mushroom." But Peppa had already leaned in and smelled it. The scent was sweet, sticky, like candied meat. And suddenly a larva emerged from under the mushroom cap, fat, white, shiny. Peppa recoiled, but it was too late. That night, Peppa woke up. Her stomach hurt and her skin itched. She went to the bathroom and turned on the light. On her cheek, a bump. It pulsed. Peppa pressed it with her hoof, and something white appeared from beneath her skin. "Mummy!" she cried. The next morning, Peppa was silent. She didn't eat. She just sat and scratched. There were already 3 bumps on her neck. A day later, she didn't get out of bed at all. Her whole body was covered in red spots, from which tiny tentacles emerged. It wasn't Peppa lying on the bed anymore. It was something pale, covered in fungal growths, from which larvae slowly crawled out. The mushroom was growing. The larvae were awakening. The pig family was no longer a family. They were a colony. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, George in the Fridge, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. One night, Peppa woke up to a strange sound. The fridge door slammed shut. "Mummy, is that you?" she called out. There was no answer. She went downstairs to the kitchen and saw the refrigerator standing wide open. Cold poured out in thick clouds like fog. On the floor, small footprints, pig-shaped. Inside, among the jars and bottles, sat George. He was smiling, too widely. His lips were blue. His eyes didn't blink. "George, what are you doing in there?" I'm not cold. I like it here," he whispered. Peppa tried to pull him out, but he held onto the shelf with the strength he never had before. And from deep inside the fridge, a voice echoed, "He's mine now. He's tasty. He stayed." On the inside wall of the freezer, frost began to form. It spelled out, "Close the door. You're next." The light flickered. In the morning, when the parents came into the kitchen, the fridge was closed. George was nowhere to be found. Only a message remained on the glass. "I'm not cold. I'm home." Deleted Peppa Pig episode, The Ceiling Virus, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. It started with a cough. First Daddy Pig, then Mummy Pig. They told Peppa it was just a cold and warned her not to leave her room at night. But Peppa didn't sleep. She heard rustling and creaking from above. Not the attic, the ceiling. One night she opened her eyes and saw Mummy, but not standing. She was crawling along the ceiling, slowly, head down. Her hands clung to the plaster like spider legs. Daddy Pig followed behind her. Their eyes were white, their mouths slightly open, but they were silent. Only the scratching of their feet above. "Peppa, are you awake?" whispered Mummy, without moving her lips. Peppa pretended to sleep. In the morning, everything seemed normal, but the parents didn't eat, didn't blink, didn't laugh. And at night, they crawled again. Peppa found an old newspaper in the attic. Unknown virus turns the infected into night crawlers. Their bodies change. They hunt by sound. The last line was circled in red. "Never open your eyes if you hear movement above, even if it's your parents' voice." Now Peppa doesn't sleep. She hears something dripping from the ceiling and whispering, "You're next, Peppa." Deleted Peppa Pig episode, Daddy's Jealousy, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. One morning, Peppa woke up to shouting in the kitchen. Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig were arguing loudly. "You were with Rabbit again," yelled Daddy Pig. "Every day. The garden, the garden. And what about me?" "He was just helping with the carrots," Mummy Pig answered softly. But Daddy Pig didn't believe her. His round face turned red with jealousy. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat in his chair, staring into the darkness, his face calm, his eyes unblinking. The next morning, he left. He told the family he was going to the city. But in truth, he went to see his close friend, the head of the wolves. Everyone had heard of him, of his power, of how he rarely left his house. Daddy Pig handed him a photograph of Mr. Rabbit. "He's too close to my wife," Daddy Pig whispered. "Make him disappear." That very night, Mr. Rabbit didn't return home. Peppa noticed that Mummy Pig cried more and more often in the bathroom. "Where's Mr. Rabbit, Mummy?" she asked one day. "He left for good," and Daddy Pig smiled, wide, silent. He was calm again, too calm. But one night, there was a knock at the window. It was 3 a.m. On the porch stood the head wolf. "You didn't tell me he was my friend," he said, staring Daddy Pig in the eyes. "You didn't tell me he fed my pack." Then the house went dark. The next morning, it was empty. Just scratches on the walls and tufts of gray fur by the door. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, Family Dinner on Halloween, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. Halloween was approaching. The pig family's house was perfectly decorated. Carved pumpkins with smiling faces, garlands made of bones. Daddy Pig was hanging lanterns, Mummy Pig was setting the table, and George was drawing spooky faces on a sheet of paper. Everyone was busy. Everyone except Peppa. Peppa stood in the corner of the kitchen. "What will I be for Halloween?" she asked. Mummy Pig turned to her and smiled far too widely. "You'll be the main course, darling." Peppa laughed. She thought it was a joke. But then Daddy Pig picked up a huge cooking pot. George opened the oven and Mummy began chopping garlic. When the guests arrived for dinner, the table was already set. The pumpkins were glowing. Ghosts were hanging from the ceiling. And in the center was a massive dish. On the platter lay a pink piglet. "Where's Peppa?" asked Susie Sheep. "She's right here," Daddy Pig replied. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, The Armless Pig, which was never showed on TV. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. One gray day at school, Madame Gazelle told the children a scary story.
Once there was a pig. He was lazy, always avoiding chores. He didn't listen to his parents, didn't help around the house, and one day, he was punished. He lost his arms. Since then, he has been called the Armless Pig. He comes to those who disobey at night, when no one expects him.
The children laughed, all except Peppa. That evening, Mummy said,
"Peppa, please wash the dishes."
Oh, no, I don't want to. I'm tired.
That night, she woke up to a creaking sound, a creak at the window. The moon was dim. Peppa cautiously approached the window and looked outside. He was standing in the yard, tall, filthy, with crooked legs, but no arms. He didn't move. He just stared, with a horrible expression on his face. Peppa took a step back. He took a step forward. Peppa screamed, but the house was too quiet. No one woke up. She hid under the bed. The breathing got louder, first at the window, then right behind the door. Then, silence. In the morning, her parents came into the room. Peppa was gone. Only a plate on the floor, licked completely clean. And on the window, scratched with a claw, was the message, "Cleanliness is salvation."